To give us some additional insight as to the reasons for Kim Jong-il's visit, I'm joined today by Abraham Kim. He's Vice President of the Korea Economic Institute, a research institute that focuses on U.S.-Korea relations. Thanks for joining us today, Abe.
Thank you for having me.
So give us some context as to the purpose of the visit and why is it happening now?
Well, one of the reasons why Kim Jong-il went to Russia is because of economic reasons. He needs Russia for investment, for trade, and even foreign assistance. But the primary reason why he went is for political reasons. Kim Jong-il is prepared to come back to the six-party talks to talk about his nuclear program. And in fact, one of the significant announcements that he made was that he was ready to freeze his nuclear program as well as his missile program. But the U.S. and South Korea are not ready to come unless Kim Jong-il is ready to make substantive movement toward denuclearization. They're not willing to just to talk for the sake of talk. But Kim Jong-il needs to get back to the six-party talks to attract international concessions and to open up North Korea to the international community.
Now, why is that important now? I mean, why did North Korea walk away from the six-party talks in the first place, and why is it so desperate to resume those talks now?
Well, in terms of the timing, why it's so important is because next year, 2012, is an important year for North Korea. First of all, it is Kim Il-sung, the late Kim Il-sung's 100th birthday. But second of all, it is a time where it is the celebration of the Great and Prosperous Nation campaign in North Korea. And during that time, the government had promised to the people that they would be politically strong, strong in security, as well as strong in economics.
Is that why there's been interest and openness on Kim Jong-il's part towards opening up a gas pipeline?
Yes, that's one of the reasons. They see this gas pipeline as an opportunity to open up a gas pipeline from Russia to South Korea. And by allowing this pipeline to go over North Korea, they can get about $100 million a year. And so they see this as a tremendous opportunity.
Now, do you think this pipeline is actually going to happen?
Well, I think right now we have to be a bit cautious. I think there have been cases in the past where they have promised large infrastructure projects or joint venture projects, and some have been successful, like the Kumgang tourism area and the Kaesong industrial complex. But as we saw from last week, with the closing down of Kumgangsan tourism area by the expropriation by the North Koreans of that zone, that these are very risky. And in order for South Korea to allow North Korea to have control over these pipelines is a risky prospect for the South Korean government.
So for the South Korean government, the question for them is, why would they invest if there's no guarantee that at some point in the future, North Korea is not going to use that as sort of a hostage to gain additional leverage?
Yes, exactly. So from the South Koreans' perspective, there's also that problem, as well as with South Korea being so dependent on energy, this will only over time would give North Korea greater and greater leverage as they become more dependent on energy from abroad.
Now, you're one of the few people in the world who was able to go to North Korea and actually see what's going on out on the streets. Was there anything that you came across that surprised you?
Well, I think one of the reasons that we went to North Korea is to see the efficacy of sanctions. And clearly, sanctions are not working.
Why is that?
Well, because if you walk the streets, for example, you see a lot of luxury cars from abroad. Mercedes-Benz,
Really?
Lexus, BMW, even American cars.
Who can afford these in North Korea?
Where clearly the elites are driving these cars. But the fact that these cars are coming into North Korea despite the sanctions is certainly a surprise to all of us. The other thing that we saw also is we went to a lot of the universities and libraries, and in these libraries there are computers, but they're all made from America. HP, Dell computers, which was quite surprising as well.
Right, right. And what about their communications infrastructure?
Well, that was another important observation that we saw. As we know, back in 2008, they opened up their wireless market to the elites, essentially. And an Egyptian company called Rascom is building the wireless infrastructure in North Korea. And currently, as of this year, earlier this year, they had about 530,000 subscribers. But we had some conversations with the Rascom executives there, and they said, no, it's more like 600,000 now.
Wow.
And so, but also the surprising thing that we saw was that he had an iPad with him,
Really?
and he was checking the internet on it. And we said, wow, you can get internet access.
Was he Googling himself?
Well, he was actually checking his email. And so he explained that the infrastructure is 3G,
yeah.
And they're developing a SIM card where you can put into your iPad, for example, and to get internet access.
That's astounding.
But of course, the obvious next question was, isn't the government concerned about this kind of access?
Right.
But in fact, he told us, according to him, is that the government is actually supporting this development.
Why is that? Because we've seen in other countries where dictatorships have been toppled because people have access to things like social media, which allows them to get additional information and to self-organize. Why wouldn't the North Korean leadership be threatened by that?
Well, I think the North Korean leadership is allowing this development because they're not only, obviously they're controlling it and only allowing the elites to have access to it. But they're also interested in moving the country into the 21st century. And part of that strategy is developing out the IT industry. And so they're inviting companies like Erascom to help them move toward that direction.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Abe. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That was Abe Kim. He's Vice President of the Korea Economic Institute in Washington, D.C.
Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world. To learn more, visit linktv.org.